We are live, or we're live now.
Okay.
We're already.
Well, can we start 10 minutes ahead of time, or is the announced time 8:30?
It was announced at 8:30.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it is.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome to the very regular meeting for the month of April.
I would say irregular.
What's that?
I would say it's irregular.
So for those in the community, welcome. We typically would begin with public comment. We have one live public person here. Jed, was there
That will
comment?
happen, so.
So we're going to be interrupted by phone calls that'll be answered elsewhere, because we have a board member appearing by phone. I'm sorry, Jed.
Well, that's okay. I just was, I think we did very well. I commend the work crew for turnaround time on going back and picking the equipment up. I spoke to Jeff recently. One issue that we're going to have to kind of look into is there was a couple places that they wanted the machines picked up the very next day at 8 o'clock in the morning. I think he had 3 locations. And this is just something physically we can't do. So we might want to look into that when we get back around to it. But again, I just commend the crew. They did a tremendous job considering they just put them out, turned around, had to take them back down. So kudos to all of them. That's really the only comment I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any minutes to review yet?
No, actually we didn't.
Okay. We have a series of bills. A lot of it's, some of it's associated with delivery and so forth. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there anything special beyond here? Doesn't look like it.
A lot of these will be reimbursed by the Secretary of State's office.
The one that, like for Marietta Paint and Janitorial, that's the Purell hand sanitizer, that one we should get a reimbursement.
Okay.
That Insight one, that's paid through our, it'll be paid through our grant money that we got for the security directive.
Very good. Anybody have any further questions about the bills?
No, I was moved that we move for the approval and payment of the bills listed.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. That brings us to correspondence. And of course, we have been receiving directives and advisories in part to keep us updated about one lawsuit, or maybe more than one, but clearly one lawsuit that was filed, I think, in March, the end of March. And so the secretary has indicated they'll keep us apprised of how that litigation is proceeding.
Right.
And so at this point, absent anything else, we're kind of business as usual. Is that correct?
Right. We've mailed out close to about 2,000 ballots so far for this current election, or well, for the extended election, however you want to call it.
Okay.
The
What's the
postcards.
problem with the people who put a date down like March or our March 17th date instead of the June or April, whatever it is, 28?
Yeah, we're taking any date.
The Secretary of
Yeah.
State's office said we could take any date
Okay.
that they put down because of the confusion. The postcards that the Secretary of State was mandated by the Ohio General Assembly to send out should be going out this week. I
I think
understand
some
that
people that I talked to got them today.
Yeah, some people got them today.
What was
Those postcards went to every registered voter in Ohio, informing them of the instructions to be able to vote in this primary. I think we've gotten a lot of calls prior to this just because of the media exposure on this. I think this is going to create more calls for us here in the office, but It's too bad that the General Assembly didn't say, go ahead and send out the application for the ballot instead of sending out just the postcard, but.
And that's what they've done in the past, they've sent the application. I mean, it's.
Oh, really? I didn't realize
Well, I think it's just for the general elections they do that.
Still, what would be the difference now, since
Right,
we have a
yeah.
problem?
Yeah. So we have brought on 2 extra personnel to help with the phones and sending out the applications. Once we have begun receiving ballots this week as well. When we start to open those, we're gonna ask for some of the delivery crew guys to come in and help us with those. Obviously, we have to open them, unfold them, and keep them. We still have to keep the envelopes and everything too, so we're gonna need help with that as well.
Yeah, I was mentioning to the director that we just want to make sure that that we're the folks who are opening it are very cognizant that the ballot envelopes are laid upside down so that no one would, without effort, can open a ballot and look to see how their neighbor voted.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were doing that, we really
We
did
were
that.
very conscious of that when the board members did that. We made sure everything was, we actually had one person that we sort of designated a puller, and their only job in life was to take the stack all upside down. They'd been open, grab the envelope, grab the ballot, and go
Yeah.
like this and put them in a stack.
Yeah, we've done that
Didn't do
before.
Another thing, then another human came and picked them up and unfolded them and put them under back we were using bricks because of the number of folds and how picky those old M100s.
They were
important. So
I understand we're getting absentee ballots back in, but for my edification and maybe the public or however, what is the current procedure in the office when they come in? Are they
Yeah.
opened and
That's how-
segregated right as they arrive?
Well, not quite. First, we have to receive them into our computer system. So we have to look up and verify the information on that ID envelope
Okay.
and then record it in our EVIS system that it's came back.
The database.
And then after that, then they get opened and separated, but we do it like Dennis.
And
was
so
describing.
they're in order, so we know which envelope was with, no.
Yeah.
No.
We don't
At
want
that
it.
point, it doesn't
You don't
matter.
want it.
Okay, so it's only the provisionals that have the envelope with.
well, they'll have a ballot, but again, we'll never open those until we have our meeting after the 28th.
Okay.
You guys will have to decide whether or not.
We'll have to
the
decide whether
provisional
we
was-
can
is
open the
worthy.
Because that's the one time where we actually had some information on the ballot and the person that.
We could, but again, we typically the only thing we jury is the envelope.
Yeah.
And then we give it to the staff who takes it, puts it upside down, pulls it and separates, and away they go.
Okay.
So you don't know how anybody.
Again, you
votes.
don't.
And I will
Yes,
tell
that was
you-
the envelope. You're right, I'm sorry, because it was about where they resided versus, okay.
And I will tell you, you may have more of those this time because a lot of the college students may have been registered in the city of their college. And obviously now that they're home, are going to have to vote provisionally if they want to. We are giving them the choice that we can go ahead and send their ballot application to the county of which their college is located. But most of them say, no, I'll just stay and vote here. So those will be provisionals that you'll be looking at.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a lot of those.
We had one, I know, my own daughter's one, I know you're gonna have one like that.
Yeah, at least a couple. I
We'll
think,
have a
so
couple,
far.
but I'm also surprised by just sending out the application from once somebody requested it, that they've moved. So we have to get their current address, and those may be provisionals as well, but.
Okay. Well, again, we have a procedure in place to get them both in a regular sense as well as the provisionals. And I again was talking with Mandy, and she indicated that fortunately for us, the provisional envelope, we held on to some of those, what we'll call older ones. They fit inside the envelope we send out with the ballot. And if you remember, traditional is the gigantic where you're gonna have to fold it and it would be extra postage. Well, we don't have to do that.
Mhm.
So it's worked out very well that we were frugal and held on to that as far as, not having to spend extra money for that.
And
'Cause
as
we
far as-
are paying for that mailing, right?
Yeah.
But will be reimbursed
Right.
by the Secretary of State. But I wanted to let the board know as well, Wasco does our mailing, obviously, and she was able to go ahead and mail, put the postage on with no date on both the ballot that we send to them and then the postage paid ballot that comes back to us. And with her contract, we were able to lower the cost a nickel for each ballot. So instead of the, what is it, regular?
Instead of 55 for them to send it back.
Yeah.
It's 50.
And so then the post office will actually postmark it on the way back.
Well, it's postmarked, she's already postmarked them.
But I meant
Well,
the date.
that's
Oh, the
how
date,
they-
yeah, so we'll know the date that comes in,
Yeah,
yes,
post
yes,
office will do that.
yes, they'll do that.
Because that date will be important when we get to
Toward the end.
the end.
Yes, yes.
And we ordered more envelopes from Bear Brothers, and they said that hopefully next week we'll get those. They didn't say what day next week.
You're not out yet, though, right?
No, we haven't been shipped yet.
No.
No, but we're doing okay.
But we're good, we're
Right now,
fine
we still
now.
have-
But we're still moving.
Yeah,
at
right now, we
pace.
still have them. So.
And I think it's good for the public to know, we're actually printing the ballots here. We have that capability. We find some quirks with it every once in a
Yeah, I
while,
told Dennis about it yesterday.
Yeah.
There's some
but
problems.
we're also gonna be, she's been in touch with RBM and
Run back.
Runback, because you guys had agreed to purchase a backup printer, and we've never received that, so we need to make sure we have that in case this printer does.
Yeah, that's right. They were.
We haven't received it?
No, she's got a call into them right
Yeah, to
now.
Todd, and he hasn't returned my call yet. It went straight to voicemail.
So I don't know when you guys got that equipment, but that backup printer never,
Fortunately,
It was last year.
our problem with that printer turned out to be electrical. In other words, it wasn't misprinting anything, but it was plugged into a surge protector. And then there seemed to be, my understanding of that, plugged it in the wall and away it went.
Yeah. Well, because the printer itself is an Oki Data printer, and so Runback got me in touch with Oki Data, and they prefer that it's never plugged into a surge protector because it messes with the fuser, and the fuser was what was giving us problems.
Okay.
That's good.
So far it's
So
working.
that's good that they told us, but why, they should have told us that.
Well, Runback doesn't think that that's a problem. They think that that shouldn't be the problem, but it has been working since
yeah.
then, so we'll see what.
Born with a finger, Charlie,
Yeah,
and they're pointing
Yeah.
at somebody
yeah,
else.
yeah, exactly.
There's no two ways about it, God bless them. But at least we got it working, and you're on top of trying to find out why we don't get that.
Well, yeah, I don't have our extra.
Let's see, we obviously approved, well, was there anything else in any of the advisory directives you wanted to bring to our attention?
I don't know if there was anything particular that you points through.
We do have to set up, the only people that can in-person vote are the disabled, handicapped, or the homeless. Now, how the homeless can produce a address and ID,
Yeah,
we'll go from there. But I just want, the public to realize there is no in-person voting unless you are handicapped or homeless. So
How
we
you
must do it.
determine homeless and handicapped?
Those that would need the assistance of the machine, it's a different kind of machine. It's not like the regular ones that enhance visual.
I understand what
I
you're
know.
saying, I know what you're saying, but
But yeah,
if I come to
somebody,
that door and say, I need to vote because I'm handicapped,
yeah, it's mostly,
Well,
it
it's
says
all-
that it
Qualifying
Well, yeah,
disability. Qualifying disability, you
Yeah.
can be issue and still come in and vote according
yeah.
to
It's probably
qualified.
qualifying disability according to maybe like the Social Security Administration or something
I'm
like that.
assuming that's probably a list we need to
Well,
get.
it says including non-visual accessibility for the blind and visually impaired.
Because,
Which one of these are you reading now?
this is the bottom of page 4 on,
Yeah, directive
2005
or 2020-07.
Mine is-
2007.
Okay, got it.
and then, so,
And then it says also an elector who is unable to receive mail at the place where the elector resides or at another location.
Talk about the homeless there.
So I guess that would be, yeah.
But it makes you wonder what address they would have on there. Maybe it's obviously their former address.
well,
Yeah,
and
they
so,
have to tell us like what park bench they normally.
Yeah.
Sleep on at night.
I remember we had that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or
and,
what
then-
shelter they
and
stay at.
really it tends to be,
and my question,
major communities that have shelters and regular, for lack of a better phrase, encampments and so forth, the folks.
this, and so it said in-person voting will only be. And we have to have at least one machine
Yeah.
available. So my question is, have we thought about whether we're going to use this room, use?
Probably this room.
I would think we would.
And that, the only day, is there only one day they can do?
Yeah, the 28th.
28th, okay.
My only fear is we'll probably need this room to do these ballot polling.
We'll
what
probably
about
try to have all
clearing
the
out-
ballots done before of that day.
Okay.
What
So
about
we shouldn't
clearing
need to
out
pull
this
it that
area?
day.
Well, I think my experience is that there'll obviously be those that come in on the 27th and the 28th that we won't get to until the 28th.
Right, we'll have a few of those. but-
And so I don't think those numbers are gonna be extraordinary, so I think we could put a voting system in a corner over, in that corner, for
Mhm.
instance,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of block it off with chairs or something, so you just have a walk-in, you sit, you vote, and you go back
Come
out.
back out.
Because we then still can, the voting can be conducted. Because that was the other thing I was sort of just brainstorming with our staff. It would appear as though we'll have to appear here at roughly 6:30 in the morning, open up, and then effectively probably go home if we're not called upon for anything else until we decide, say, 5 or 6 to conduct our business in anticipation of 7:30, or should there be some kind of line somewhere or something, some court saying you're staying home later than 7:30. But otherwise, at 7:30, we will close the polls and be able to give the public the unofficial results, you know. So I
Well,
think
that's one of
probably
the
what we're
questions
up
we've
to.
had candidates have asked. How soon do we think we'll know we'll have the results?
Well, I'm of the opinion that absent someone, a large group of coming in at 7:25, where you have to go through and, you know, first off, enter their information, check it, make sure it's legitimate, then open it, then pull it, and then flatten it, and then see if the machine's gonna take it on its first run. I'm thinking within 15 or 20 minutes, we should have the results.
Okay.
That's what I would.
Because everything,
Yeah, everything should be ready and so forth when we turn off the equipment and say, now count it.
And can we now mix the, that March 17th absentee
frequently asked
versus?
questions.
I read that, that's what it said.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that,
Yeah,
that we
When I read it,
can,
that's what my
yeah,
understanding was.
that we can mix them, we don't have to keep them any longer. Public knowledge, when your ballots do come in, they are put behind a double lock and key that only the director and this deputy director have. So things are safe, as always.
yeah. Yeah, again, fortunately for us, we've had a lot of experience with keeping things safe, locked up, so that, you know, the public can be assured that we're not allowing anybody to tamper with anything that they have sent in. And again, we'll probably have a busy day, perhaps with our, when we're doing the final canvass after the election.
Yeah.
And so I suspect that's a day where we may have to make sure that our offices or private lives, we probably ought to give pretty much the whole day to the Board of Elections. Because we just could have that kind of, we could have numbers, we just don't.
Yeah, we could have several.
This is new, so we don't know what kind of numbers we're gonna have.
So the other lawsuits that were filed on the 17th by ODP, Ohio Democratic Party, and the two individuals, those were resolved by that judge's decision?
And I don't think I did not hear of any appeal thereafter.
Okay.
And one of the cases, I think, was filed directly in the Ohio Supreme Court. So the only avenue of appeal at that point would have been a petition for certiorari to the Ohio Supreme Court, or to the US Supreme Court. And I think that the wall quit, I don't think anybody was going on with it.
But this one,
Just this litigation, which I believe is in Columbus, in Franklin County, and
Southern District of Ohio.
and I was thinking it was Judge Watson, but I'm not 100% sure that's correct. But I thought I looked at it, and I thought it was assigned to Judge Watson. And so
just thinking out loud, Wisconsin, they could have petitioned to go to the US Supreme Court?
Somebody did, and they denied it.
yeah,
Oh,
they went and they got
And
the
they got that
denial.
denied, okay.
I'll be honest, I'm fascinated. I guess, the results will be what the results are. I really think that, in all candor, what we did was appropriate under all the circumstances. When you consider how many people in the state of New York, that didn't understand the close proximity and so forth in their daily lives and so forth, the number of cases they've had.
I'm anxious to see Wisconsin's turnout.
It'll be interesting, you're right, I thought about that.
So it'll be interesting to see how the poll workers turn out.
Well, I thought I heard on the news this morning that some of the polls they didn't show up at the polls.
I figured, I tell you, we would have had a hard time. You wouldn't believe how many poll workers
Yeah.
called me Tuesday,
Yeah, right.
March 17th, and said, I'm not gonna do this.
Yeah, well, I don't,
Yeah.
you're
I
asking a
know,
lot
I
out
told
of
them,
folks.
the majority of our poll workers, God love them, they truly are good public servants for us. But a lot of them were compromised,
Yeah.
situations, which I wouldn't have felt comfortable. And a lot of them said, I wanna do it, but my kids are telling me, you're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I said this morning when I got here. I didn't even tell my wife I was down here because I didn't want to hear what she said before I left. Really, I'm being honest. I mean, I'm a diabetic and I got heart problems and, I'm a high-risk individual.
Yeah.
Yes,
Now you're live on YouTube.
all right, so we're,
You should not watch it.
There's no
She didn't
announcement.
know about it, so.
Today about that case. I'm on the.
Okay.
Now,
Ohio Board News, sorry.
thanks. Well, let's move on to our business then. And again, I think we've obviously approved the hall usage for
Yeah.
St.
And
Bernard's.
they, we got the check printed for them and everything.
Yeah, I have the check, I haven't delivered yet, because we haven't had mass.
So as anticipated with all these cancellations, Earth Day,
Earth Day was canceled,
Right.
yeah, we were asking about doing something for them. I don't know if they'll reschedule anytime or not, I haven't heard.
yeah.
I don't know if you guys wanted to go ahead and go over the EAP plan today or wait for another day for that.
Well, let's ask this. How do you guys feel about doing that on election day?
Might as well.
If we came at 6:30, if you didn't have anything going on until 7 or 8, we could just announce that we'll go over, does that work in your
Yeah,
schedule?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So
Well, we can at least move the pace. Obviously, we're not sure how we're giving a day on election day, so it'd give us something to do early on.
Yeah. And then the chargebacks that are done, but I forgot to print them off and bring them in. so-
Should we have them in order to approve them? Do we need
Probably,
a
so
vote?
you can see them, yeah, because you have. to vote
Yeah,
on
if you
them.
want to ask Melissa or someone if they
Yeah, I
can run
can
them
have them
for
print
us.
them off.
She or Emily maybe could do a quick run.
Also, if you haven't gotten the chance, we have the camera installed, Southeastern Ohio Security did that wonderful job. I called them in the morning, they're by mid-morning, installed the camera. We have the mail slot installed, because, we are locking the door and folks can then put their ballot or their application through the mail slot. The video camera, and I'll show you after the meeting, it's all backed up, on a DVR. So we can go back to about 2 months worth, and it's saved on that hard drive. And anytime that we have any question, if there's, anything that we want to question, we can go back, download it on a USB drive and be able to view it from there.
How long will you keep it?
It just continually records, so it's, like I said, we can go back as far as 2 months worth. And then there's another camera on the children's services side that kind of points towards the parking lot. We thought about having one there, but I think this is more important, actually seeing the voter dropping anything off or anything like that. But it's worked out very well. I mean, we've seen people come in, just a few people have questions. We say if there's questions, they just knock on the window and ask. And one of the great things that the directive allows us to do is, if there's any problem on the application, say a person didn't write down what kind of ballot they wanted, we can get that information from the voter over the phone.
Yeah.
We still have to send out another application and they have to update that, but that won't delay in them getting their ballot because of something as simple as they forgot to sign it or they didn't.
Or if they forgot to sign it, we can't
Yeah,
send them.
well, if they forgot to sign it, we do have to send it, we do have to send that, but
But
if
if they left
They didn't
something
write
like,
down what party they wanted.
what party
Right.
they wanted. A lot of people have been writing independent. We don't have independent, voting capabilities in Ohio.
So what are you doing there? Just send them the.
We call them and just
Oh.
say, if there's an issue in their precinct, we say, you do have an issue if you would like to just vote on that. But if not, you have to choose a party.
yeah, well, that works well.
Mhm.
The other thing is, and you'll see, I think when you go in that room where we have all our equipment, they now put up blinds. So.
You can't
there's-
see in
you
from the
can't
outside
see
now.
in. And as it turned out, that's a very good thing because the ladies got to looking at it and said, at night, there are certain lights that really illuminated that room.
Yeah, so you could see what
look at
was
a
on
window and you
it.
basically could sort of look in and see, so now that's not the case.
What did you say about our camera that we?
Yeah, I told them about the
Okay.
camera.
Yeah.
Well, you want to do while we're waiting on the chargeback, you want to do the official canvas?
Date, yeah. Says, there's a time frame. It
Yeah.
may begin after Saturday, May 9th. And it must begin by Wednesday,
And then-
May 13th.
Yeah, and then it must be completed by Tuesday, May 19th.
So Glenn, we're looking at the merry month of May.
This is when it can first start.
Yeah, and that's a Saturday.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that.
So
But the 19th is the very last day.
so the week of the 11th would probably be a preference, potentially simply that we didn't run up against the 19th, which is a Tuesday of the following week.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
What was good now?
Well, we were just asking first to look at the week of the 11th to see what,
I don't have anything on that week, so I'm good any day we pick.
I had a Monday through Thursday, a family meeting that had been scheduled. But all this, I'm not sure if it's still going.
That's Monday through Thursday, I think it gives us Friday.
so what about Friday, what would that be, the 15th?
15th?
I don't see anything on Friday.
Are you okay on the 15th, John?
I am.
Is that good for the staff?
That's good.
Yep.
So we're going to meet on Friday, the 15th. Shall we start at our 8:30 time?
Well, I'd say we better start as early as we can, and so we have
Because we're gonna have to run stuff and then, yeah.
So the time date for the 15th is what?
We were thinking 8:30.
8:30? Yeah, I've got it down.
And we said earlier to try to block the whole day for that, just in case.
We may be done early, but we remember we prepared.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Just for the public, do you want to explain that, what the canvassing means?
Well, what we do on that date, well, let's go back to the 28th again for the public. It's called the unofficial canvass. It certainly is all of the votes that we have taken into that time period that we're allowed to count. But there are people who have perhaps sent us through the mail their absentee ballot, and we haven't received it on the 28th. So the new statute gives a time frame for those ballots to reach our office. And of course, they have to have the correct mailing date on them. And that's, of course, the day before the 28th. Now, a person could hand deliver on the 28th, but if you put it in the mail, you want to put it in by the 27th. And you want to make sure that it's stamped that way. So putting it in a box somewhere, thinking that it's getting stamped, that could pose a problem for us. Because if it is stamped on election day or after, the Ohio law precludes us from opening the envelope and counting the ballot. Now, again, during that time period that we're talking about, there are going to be those things coming through the mail. And in addition, throughout the course of this election, there are certain people that have voted in a provisional envelope, meaning there's some question perhaps about a name or an address, or did they register to vote? There can be a variety of reasons they might get a provisional ballot. So on the date that we have selected, May 15th, we will be looking at those envelopes. And the staff historically puts them in categories and groups so that we're looking at the same issue on any ballots. And so we go through, and the fancy word is we jury them. What we really do is we discuss is a fatal flaw that has not been corrected. Is it a flaw that we can excuse in that we get what's called substantial compliance with the law? And so we have to make that determination. If we determine that the ballot can be counted, then those envelopes are taken out, the staff, and we always have an R and a D conducting this. They open the envelope, remove the ballots, flatten them out, put them through our scanning system that then registers those votes. And when all of that's completed, then the staff add those additional numbers to what we got on April 28th, that unofficial canvass. And what they present to the board when that process is done is the official canvass, which means all of the ballots that can be counted have been counted. And at that point, we review that. We then vote to accept that and make that really the final vote. And then those results are released to the public on our website. Anyone who's interested, and there could be folks that will be here. Usually the reason they come for this is that there's an election where the votes are so close that these extra ballots that were coming through the mail or the provisionals that have to be looked at by the board could make a difference in an election. If not, some folks then don't seem to be quite as interested, but we still usually have some people that want to know the very final numbers. And again, for those ballots that weren't counted, we don't get rid of them, or those envelopes that never got opened. we keep them for review by the public, and if there's some legal issue, they're available for inspection to make a determination whether the board made a mistake or not. And I think that pretty much lays out how we'll be conducting business on the 28th and then through to the 15th. And again, that's it. We're going to start at 8:30 and we'll quit when we're done. There are times where the board might leave for a little bit while the staff is actually executing what we've told them to do as far as opening envelopes and counting those ballots. But we'll fix a finite time where we come back and actually approve the results. So hopefully that is helpful for folks. Let's see, we have, oh, did you get the chargeback? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
They're talking and
I've reviewed the chargeback.
Thank you.
The page where the signatures are at, that has the, of course, the total name.
Currently, the total is the number.
The, $39,036.66.
Right.
And this is for the audit.
That's a pretty good chunk of money that I wish we had that.
I was going to say, have we heard anything further about the special account?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, we have to approve this chargeback account. I think pick at least one of these. We can use mine, I guess, to put our signatures
I'll
on.
make a motion to approve the chargeback for the November 5, 2019 election to be executed by us and sent to the auditor, correct?
Yeah.
And then they make the corresponding chargebacks by township.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Glenn. And of course, we can't have you sign right now, but when we get a chance, we'll have that available for signature
Can we
as
put
well.
per telephone?
Or would you authorize Mr. Halliday to affix your signature by phone?
For what?
The chargeback, we have to sign off.
Yeah.
Thank you, all right. Well, John then will affix your signature by your approval.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Yes, sir.
Well, obviously, overtime and comp time, I'm certain is moving apace.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, we should probably just shelve that for later.
Yeah.
Since whatever
Yeah.
plans we had to
Yeah.
address it went out the window.
Yeah.
Hopefully this summer.
Frittering down the road.
Right, you started over when you was doing that, but it didn't last long, did it?
We got 1 week.
We got 1
when we were
week,
trying to take
yeah.
care of it.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, and the
And
world,
then this
the
came.
world
and it was like,
changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we may have to shut down the office, but 1 or 2 weeks, or you guys may have to come in and staff.
Backup power,
We haven't done anything else
Okay.
on.
and again, what
Actually,
that
most of
has
the
to
rest
do
of
with,
it
would
we
that be
don't.
contacting the engineer?
Oh, actually,
we're
we
doing
did get
that?
ahold of them and they, do have some generators we could use. I think they had 2 or 4.
Do we have the ability to hook it up somewhere here?
So, well, it would mostly be for us to hear the EMs or EOC's generator, so we don't need one for us.
Oh.
It'd be
Oh.
from our polling place.
All right, so we're not gonna have, so we actually have backup power for this
This election.
For this
April
election,
28th.
yes.
We're gonna be in good shape.
For that.
We're still working on the credit card business, although Karen's been added.
Yeah, she's
and so
been
forth,
added, we
so
just
our
don't have
ducks are in
a
a
physical
row.
card for it yet.
Right. We're still working on the poll book issue.
Yeah.
That's probably a little bit again on hold with all that's going
Yeah, I
on
figure
here.
everybody's so busy.
The memorandum of understanding, I did review, did everyone get, Nicole's observations and so forth? She had sort of what I'll call a general observations of things that could be problematic. But if you noticed, I think at the end, she, at least my memory is it was there, I certainly know of this, that she was going to consider a special prosecutor or
If we
prosecutors
needed one, yeah.
in that, you know, we
We
might
have the
need.
She represents all parties.
Both sides, yeah, and it's very hard for her to represent, she really should represent no one.
So yes, did she, and I, forgive me because I can't call that up on my phone, did she advise us to do that prior to signing
didn't
it,
get it
have it
printed
reviewed?
No, I think actually, she would probably be the one who would actually look into, and so it would be a question for a request. The things that I noted, had to do with, our mission statement is not correct in the memorandum of understanding, and that we conduct elections, and I think he borrowed one perhaps from another memorandum of understanding.
And it hasn't been changed since his original draft to us,
Right.
correct? Okay. Can we,
And there was a save harmless clause, which again, Nicole pointed out
we
in
can't,
her, that we can't sign that because it's a violation of Ohio law for us to save anybody harm.
was that forwarded to Mr. Fryman or not? Because it's a
I don't-
client
I-
attorney
I don't know.
communication.
I don't know if she had like on that email or not. I'll go back and
We
look.
have to look.
You know, I don't
Because
remember
we
getting
can
that
table
email
this
from her.
until,
I
Yeah.
forwarded on to you. I think I did it, did I do it as maybe a long text?
Well, I was
And
just
said, "Did you get a
wondering,
chance to look
Mine's in
at
the-
your-"
we should write him a note or a letter that said that the three things that we currently thought, one is just minuscule. Do we have the county commissioners' names correct? The save harmless, and we would just say that we, we're in the business of following the, give me the chapter, is it 31?
3105 or 3115. Or 30, it's 35 something is the,
Yeah, well, we want to look up specifically what are, because campaign finance, election, et cetera.
Probably under
is what we're
chapter
doing.
35.
And I'm just trying to make it, I was trying to make it as broad as possible without necessarily just trying to be so specific
Mhm.
and so forth, because it's a memorandum of understanding that that's what we're doing. And if those corrections can be made, we may be able to put that back to the prosecutor and say that we may not have anything, so we don't have to go through this special prosecutor.
Okay. Well,
And so.
I figured that's another.
The
thing
only
that's
other
kind of-
question I had about the parking lot stuff that continues to just sort of float through is, I wondered if there was some misunderstanding that those 5 spots are used by our staff. And so therefore, it's kind of a preference over the other staff people here. And the fact of the matter is, they're never used by our staff. They're used by people that come to conduct business.
Mhm.
So I guess the only issue I might suggest is that if they want to use those for people that visit here that aren't staff people, we could probably change it and so forth to say something else, because I don't think they get that many visitors on the low end.
Well, I think part of the concern is when more of the Jobs and Family Services personnel, once he gets done,
moving
them over here, that their parking on this side is gonna be more of an issue. What I would like to see is that those 5 spaces do remain open as much as possible during the early voting period.
Right.
So,
Right.
because that's where the majority of the voters will come to
Right.
park. Like on a Saturday and Sunday before the election, we're always busy here.
And at least to be working.
And they
Right.
should, obviously, probably won't, but just in case, I would like during early period of those 5.
There should be a
spaces.
workaround to that
And I
that's
think it
acceptable
kinda
to
seemed-
everybody.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure
reasonable to
that's something that
We,
they,
we just don't want people having to walk 100 yards to,
Right.
to vote.
exactly.
And so
Exactly.
it makes sense that,
Yeah, we want to encourage people to come in. We don't want to discourage folks about, well, I'm not going to walk down that hill.
Yeah,
Whatever. And again, because we vote no, and we sometimes vote, well, we're going to try to vote early
mhm.
in other elections. aren't gonna have inclement weather and people are not gonna necessarily wanna be walking down snowy sidewalks or snowy, icy roadways. Like to be as close as they could. Yeah, in November, you never know when you could have a, surprise storm of some sort. So that's all we're trying to do. It was never designed for, the staff park there because universally we park elsewhere.
Right.
But I thought, let's get the election over,
Yeah,
get this part over, and then maybe we can have Nicole come to our,
but again, if there's any kind of pressure, at least you could retype those parts if you could, because, so that we have a document that's at least, if we know those issues are clearly things that have to be cleaned up.
Right.
It's not like we're, just because we knew it was a fast draft on his part.
Right.
And so forth. We're still gonna be talking about partnering at some point.
Yeah.
And we're still on old business. We're
Yeah.
still waiting to hear a response and so forth. So our next meeting would be April 28th.
And I put.
At 8:30, I think.
But we want to change that.
I think they need to do it at 6:30.
6:30, that's what I put.
Or if you want to be here at 6 or whatever you want.
Well, 6:30.
I think 6:30
If we could be
is okay.
here a few minutes before, we're always early. So that's not a problem, because again, what we're gonna do is open.
I mean, I don't think we'll have too many people coming in right at 6:30.
It's unlikely.
Yeah.
But again, we'll be open for business.
So what time are we gonna be here? It's open up 6 or 6:30?
6:30.
Okay.
For our
Just,
meeting.
yeah. We'll start the meeting and one of the things, we'll do a couple of items, that we had talked about, at least the one for sure,
The EAP.
yeah, the EAP. So, was there any other business that,
The only, I've received an email from a county voter who has access and has indicated that if we, as the Board of Election, need gloves or masks, he has the ability to donate them.
oh, that's nice.
Wonderful.
And so, he didn't understand, I think, that there was very limited in-person voting. He thought maybe we'd have a lot of people in a small space,
Yeah,
and so had offered that.
Yeah.
However, if there are some N95 masks available and some gloves, would you like me to?
oh, I think it would be a nice, we're gonna be introducing more people to do the ballots and so forth. And so by definition, there's gonna be, the 6-foot rule could get broken fairly easily.
So then I'm okay to reach back out to him. and
Yeah,
make sure
absolutely, and thank you.
Thank
That's a
you.
wonderful
That's
gesture.
wonderful.
Wonderful. Is there anything else?
I don't think I can think of anything.
Then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Did you have anything else, Glenn? Are you good?
I think I'm good.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for attending. And to the public that are watching, thank you for visiting with us. And we're going to do a good job with this election.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Would you like me to self-disinfect my area with a Clorox?
that's
wipe?
all right, we'll get it, Do you want to, he didn't think